MIDDLEKAUFF! Baby, hey! Hello, welcome. Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF, live on YouTube on Thursday. Moving and shaking, busy day, lot going on. We got a lot to get to. We got to squeeze it all in, John. Recording this before Thursday Night Football, which I like the Bengals tonight, MIDDLEKAUFF. If you're listening to this on the podcast, 5 stars if I'm right. Apple Podcast review.
Who day?
Who do you like?
Yeah, I would go with the bank. Little more desperation, right? Just got their first win of the season last week against Robert, as Michael Lombardi likes to say, Saleh. It's like, no, his name's Saleh, buddy. Robert Saleh. So yeah, I'd like the Bengals. I think as the season goes on, like the home team on a short week.
I like that pick. We gave you the stat the other day, 90 snaps on defense by the Dolphins the other day. But if John's wrong, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcast. If the Dolphins win, 5 stars either way.
We're not football aficionados, guy.
Not like Mark Davis.
No.
He has seen a lot of a certain type of football over the years, really, when you think about it.
Yes.
An expert, some would say.
Yeah. He's and it's his time shepherding the franchise as the managing partner.
Governor.
I guess they've made the playoffs twice, right?
Yep.
Del Rio and then Rich.
Yeah. Looking for that first that home playoff game. Been a while since I had a home playoff game.
I heard an NBA podcast the other day. The guy called him a governor. I was like, you can't. Even fucking Adam Silver, when the guy got booted, called him the owner. It's like, guys, you come on, be better.
Simmons went on this thing today. He thinks that LeBron, him and Windhorst, did you see this clip? They both kind of think like something's up. LeBron might be trying to get himself onto a Steph Curry team before his career's over. They're like, did you notice how they all took photos together at Draymond's wedding? Like LeBron would not have done that 5 years ago. LeBron used to hate Steph. Now he's always complimenting Steph.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening, but hey, you never know.
John, before we dive into it, everybody, let's tell you we are sponsored by our friends at Tito's. Handmade vodka, numero uno. This is what you want. This is the stuff. Big football weekend ahead, and what better way to celebrate than with Tito's handmade vodka? That's the Tito's original craft vodka is the original stuff, John. This is the good stuff. This is what we are so proud to tell you about, even though most of you know about it. And why do you already know about it? Because it's already unanimous judges, double choice, gold medalist, World Spirits competition, best vodka tonic in the world, Chairman's Trophy. It's been going for 25 years strong. This is good stuff.
How do you beat it? I mean, Tito's sodas, Tito's espresso martinis, Tito's in your John Daly's.
Could go for one of those right now, actually.
I could too. I mean,
just the Yacht Club post pod.
I just think Tito's, you add it to anything, and it adds a smile on your face because one, just when you say Tito's, a good time's coming.
Yep.
And two, it tastes so good, so smooth. It's the #1 vodka in America for a reason. We're all drinking it.
Yes, we are, John.
We tag us if you're, this is going to be another big weekend for people. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. You never know. Sunday night, Monday. The Niners play Monday night. So
yep. We'll be back on Monday.
If you keep rolling on Tuesday, you never know. So just tag us.
Thursday, baby. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof. Crafted to be savored responsibly. As always, if you're thinking you got a go-to drink, John mentioned a few of the the cleanup hitters. But if you want to mix it up a little bit, if you want to sit your starting quarterback and maybe give somebody else a chance, go to Tito'sVodka.com. Great recipes there.
Yes.
We're also brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the code HAM. Right now, you bet $5 on any football team to win and receive an additional $200 in free bets if your bet cashes. Give me a pick for the weekend.
I'm going to go Kentucky +7. Don't like it. I love it. Mark Stoops, pass Bear Bryant, +7 on the road. Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart. Love the Wildcats to win outright, but +7. Feel good about it.
Kentucky opened as a 1.5-point underdog. It's now 7. Here's a stat for you.
Football school.
Kentucky has won 6 of the last 13 games outright as an underdog. So when you said you're just taking the points, but the last 13 times they've been an underdog, they've won outright 6 times. And 4 of those 6 wins, John, they were at least a 6-point dog like they are now at Ole Miss. Lane's mad because everyone's hanging out in the Grove instead of coming into the stadium or whatever. So I like it. What do you think of the Ravens getting 3 points against Buffalo this weekend? Buffalo, tough loss last week, worn the hell out, ran 90 offensive plays. The Ravens only play in close games. The Bills only lose close games and only win by, 3 touchdowns.
Harbaugh, incredible underdog. If you're going to do a same game parlay here, how about the over on Lamar Jackson touchdowns and take the Ravens +3?
Ooh, I like that. I think it might be 2 teams. I got to double check the stat. This is not part of the gambling piece. It might be 2 teams that lead their teams in rushing, but Josh Allen might lead the Bills in rushing. I'll double check that stat. Don't quote me on that. But in any event, a lot of good options, a lot of good picks. You can go with the parlays as well. So many great options to parlay when you use the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Plus, with same-game parlays, you can combine multiple bets from the same game to give yourself a shot at even bigger winnings all season long. And if you're in a state where the sports betting is not yet available, hey, DraftKings Daily Fantasy is a great time as well. We played that all last season, actually the last 2 years, I think. And you can go check that out. So code HAM, DraftKings Sportsbook, go get it.
Yep, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code HAM, receive $200 in free bets if their bet hits, placing a $5 pregame football wager. That's promo code HAM, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Brad on the stream says melon promo code. Missed the teaser on the last one. Luis says melon, question mark, exclamation, question mark, exclamation, exclamation, question mark. Somebody just tagged me in a tweet, said they got their melon hat. Melon did not pay for the live, but we got the ads running on the audio version. But if you're a video watcher, you don't get the melon ad, but we'll tell you, John. Code HAM. Code HAM. Melon.com, melin.com/ham. We're giving those out for free, John.
That's free. That's free.
It's on us. That's on ham.
Just believe in the product, like Kyle Shanahan and Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, I got my hat's over there. I can't grab it, but I've got multiples we paid full price for.
When you think melon, non-us, who's the first person that comes to your mind?
I don't want to say. Oh, Shanahan.
More than who was the other guy? Phil,
yeah.
I think Phil's battle back. He took his name off the lawsuit I saw. But,
I don't know if they came out with the KPMG hat that they were planning. Maybe they did. I don't know.
Yeah, they might have. Well, KPMG.
Everybody. Yeah, you're right.
Melon stayed loyal. They stayed loyal.
Yeah. Hey, whatever. Go get it. We're big fans.
I feel like if Kyle could, and obviously the leagues get very, very tight with their. And in fairness, college is like this. I used to get yelled at Fresno State if you had Reebok, but I get it. You sign these huge deals with specific brands. If you just said, Kyle, you get any choice, obviously he would wear the trucker hat and melon hats nonstop. He would not wear what the 49ers are giving him, right?
I'd wear the melon hat now. I do. It's the hat I wear. It's right there because I just wore it into the house.
Kyle, too. I mean, we see him out and about in the summer. That's all he wears.
I remember, you talk about you getting shit wearing Reebok, which if you find me somebody wearing Reebok today,
this is 14 years ago.
Where's Waldo? I remember I went to Oregon one time with Jeff Schwartz, and he was wearing an Adidas logo, and everybody talked shit to him. Everybody.
Was he doing that on purpose?
Well, it was just like it was a Pac-12 network polo. We were doing the spring game, and it was an Adidas logo. He had to wear it, but everyone hit his shoulder and was like, "Hey, man, you got something on your shoulder." And then the guy gave him a pair of Jordans for free.
Last week, I'm sitting on the Twitter.com, and there's Haberman fires off a tweet. This is at Oregon is like holding on for dear. They're down, I think, at the time. They're losing to Washington State. Now, I would imagine a lot of people listening have not been to the stadium. This isn't exactly like Levi's. There's not unlimited place and definitely boxes for people to sit. So there's a limitation on seats for the super rich. I would imagine if you're not going to sit.
What game are you talking about?
I'm talking Washington State, Oregon, and you tweet out a picture of the coaching box, and sitting next to the coaches is none other than Phil Knight. Not just sitting there, because like I said,
offensive coordinator, not just any coach.
Okay, the offensive coordinator, Kenny Dillingham, is that his name?
Correct. Yep.
Sitting next to him, not just sitting there because again, limited boxes. He has a headset on, so he's sitting. He can hear the calls, but he wants to hear both interactions.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty insane.
Pretty nuts. Pretty nuts.
Have you seen him do that before?
Never. But it doesn't mean he hasn't. I'm sure he has, right? The first time he would do it would not be when he's, 82 at Washington State or however old he is. I'm not sure on Phil's age, but
I think you're close.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt it's the first time he's done it, John. Because if you could do it.
You give him the benefit of the 84.
84. Yeah. If you could, runner, like lifetime runner, just, good shape. If you could do it, plus very rich. So I'm sure, I'd be all up in the HGH, if I were him. And who knows what else. I'd be doing plasma therapies and all of it. But if you could, wouldn't you? I think we've talked about this. If you were the owner, would you? If you
and he is the owner.
And he is
right?
the owner. Yeah.
I think there is a balancing act, though, as someone who has been so successful. And Shoe Dog is one of my favorite books ever. It's a business book more than it is like his life story of just the ups and downs.
I agree. It is an all-time great book. I was shocked at how good, because it reads like a novel, but it's his life.
It's incredible. And having seen the ups and downs of business, the pressure that he's putting on the guy sitting right next to him, I think maybe you lose touch the older you get and you get that rich and you get that powerful. I can't imagine if you could get 50-year-old Phil Knight and be like, do you understand the pressure you're putting on this guy you're sitting next to, who I'm pretty sure is younger than us? Isn't Kenny Dillingham like 34, 35 years old?
I mean, he'll be ASU's next coach probably, but yeah, young guy.
Why do you think he'll be ASU's next coach?
ASU guy. Went to ASU.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess they looked okay.
I actually think his play calling's pretty good, although the red zone offense was not good last week. But
I played golf with a guy a month ago that was Kenny Dillingham's neighbor in Scottsdale.
Yeah, you told me about that.
I would imagine he'd want the job.
The one thing I'd say for Phil, he badly wants the job. The one thing I'd say for Phil is if he doesn't, like, if he's done it for years and he doesn't ever say anything to he doesn't like ever give any feedback. He just listens. He doesn't say like, Kenny, what? Like, that would be a world where maybe it can kind of work, right? Without it being too weird. I don't know.
I'm assuming he's not like criticizing the guy after, but my point, regardless, I'm assuming he's not saying anything. I still think that's nuts.
Weird. It is. It's weird.
That's crazy.
It's weird. But
luckily they won because I thought when they were losing and you have the picture like
down 12 with 4 minutes left.
Is this guy going to travel home?
Yeah, it'd be. I'm guessing Phil doesn't. Phil probably sits in the front near the head coach. Is my guess.
I would imagine Phil doesn't fly with him.
Yeah, probably different flight. All right, John. Speaking of awkward situations, Kyle Shanahan was asked about Jimmy Garoppolo's lip reading. I mean, everyone, we've all done Jimmy Garoppolo lip reading, and Kyle Shanahan said that he doesn't know the clip. He hadn't seen the clip. He just got it on his notes before the press conference because that's part of the job of the media relations folks. They tell the coach before he hits the podium, here's some things you might get asked about. Maybe there's something controversial going on or some viral tweet, or in this case, both. But they kind of just prep them for that. Kyle said, I got it on my notes, but I'm not a very good lip reader, so I'm not going to watch it. Like it's like with one of my friends, he was asked about the relationship. Jimmy and I are around each other every single day, so there's not any awkwardness from us or anything that's kept from one another. Basically, we know how each other feel. So would you buy? Are you buying that Kyle has not seen the clip? And what do you think of his answer?
Yeah, I'm going to call bullshit. I'm going to say he's lying. He's definitely saw the clip and someone showed him the clip. Now, maybe he went full lawyer and said, don't show me. I don't want to see. But John Lynch described it to him.
Yeah.
I have a hard time. I get he's an older soul for a younger guy, but we're all humans. You would, if someone's showing you the clip, you'd peek because it's not that bad. I also think it's a pretty crazy. Now, listen, I'm glad this stuff happens. It gave us something to talk about. It interests a lot of people when you see it. I think 7 people texted to me, right? And 1 million people shared it, I'm sure, with both of us and just all over. I am pro the content. I do think it's unfair if you were in their shoes, this type of stuff happening. Can you imagine? I said to this before we hopped on, like you're getting into an argument over dinner with your wife and both you guys go in the other room. If I had you slow motion mouth reading, or when you are a kid with your parents on both sides, the parents, what they're saying about you when you turn the corner in high school, what you're saying about them. This doesn't happen in any other walk of life. No other business setting. Like if you're a sales guy, you and your boss are screaming at each other and you go the other way. Can you imagine over the years some of the things that you have said about your superiors? I mean, it's part of the job. I get it. Comes with the territory now more than ever because of social media, because of the cameras, because of people. I mean, all that was something as he was walking out. It happened so fast. If you're not super locked in, you turn around, you're talking to someone at your couch, on the couch, you pet your dog, you might not even pay attention. One human being saw it, posted, and it went viral. It's not like 17 people had it. One human being. It's the same video every single place I've seen it. But that's just the reality, and it sucks Though I still not quite sure what he said. I don't necessarily care, but this would have happened with Jimmy. This could have happened with Mac Jones and Belichick. Could have happened with Lamar if he said, "Pay me my fucking money." I mean, it could happen in any situation. It happens in basketball all the time. It's why, LeBron covers his mouth, even though I think it's pretty stupid when he's saying hi to somebody. Yeah. Offensive coordinators do it, not necessarily because they don't want you reading like, what play did he say? But it's just, I guess, the world we live in.
Yeah, I saw somebody say that it was that it was wrong of CBS to show Ken Dorsey's reaction in the Bills booth. Like, the coaches let you put a little camera in there, kind of with the understanding that you're not going to make them look bad, right? And like, you have to, I shouldn't say this. I don't know this for a fact that you have to get their permission to put a camera in there, but I do think generally it's like, okay, cool. They are letting us put a camera in their private space. And so the trade-off is, what do you do in that spot? But to me, it was like, they didn't, the Ken Dorsey play wasn't something that happened 30 minutes ago and then they showed it to you. They just cut to the camera and Ken Dorsey lost his shit. I think it's basically how it played out.
7 second or something delay, right? Wouldn't they have known?
No, it doesn't quite work like that. The delay is from what they are packaging together, hitting the air. It's a little different than them being able to say, let's put that on. Once you say, like, take camera A, like, you have taken camera A. You can't.
I saw Josh Allen say he loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's that bad. But I think my ultimate point is, like, you are doing this whole thing in a very public space, but there are parts of it that you want to be private. Now, I think your point is the perfect point, right? Which is that if you filmed anybody for whatever, any amount of time when they're in a highly charged situation, sometimes they would say things that they're saying to themselves. He didn't go like say it to Debo, all Kyle's plays suck, right? He said it, he just frustrated, threw it out, like came out of his mouth. And I'm with you. I don't even know if that's what he said. I actually wouldn't be shocked if Kyle hadn't watched it. Coaches, the disciplined ones, right? Like Bill, the whole thing that Lane's always done, which is a copy of Saban, which is we don't ingest the rat poison. Like, guys, we're not gonna do any of that shit. Would be Kyle's attitude. It's like, I'm so busy. I got so much stuff to focus on. It's easier for me if I don't watch it, because then I don't have to, I just say I didn't watch it. I don't even fuck with it. Jimmy knows when I'm pissed with him. I know when Jimmy's pissed with me. I don't need anybody else telling me that Jimmy was frustrated on Sunday night by the Broncos. And I definitely don't need to watch some clip that's gone viral, because honestly, there are things that he has said to me 10 times worse than that, or that I've said to him definitely 10 times worse than that. So who cares? Like, I could see if he hadn't watched it for that reason, Now
there is an element like it's not like CBS or Fox or, like the broadcast partner put this out. This was a rogue fan that then everyone I do think ultimately, like, this type of stuff is healthy for the league. Like, this makes it popular, right? This gets people talking. It's a little different, but Ethan's often told the story. He's got a great Substack about Scott Skiles, who in a coaches meeting with David Stern, when David announced that we're going to do quarter interviews with the coach, right, at the first and going into the fourth quarter, because ESPN and ABC, they just re-upped their deal, and we've put this into the package. And Scott Skiles raises his hand. He's like, this is bullshit. We got to focus. And then David Stern looks at Scott Skiles and goes, hey, everybody, Scott doesn't want us to do this. They just paid us $1 billion, but he thinks this is a terrible fucking idea. Now, this is not apples to apples in the situation, but ultimately his point is everything that's on television, like, is good. Like, that, to me, that Ken Dorsey thing, my ultimate take with that is, like, that is why the NFL is crushing. Now, obviously coaches just in any sport are more passionate, but as an NBA coach, or definitely as a baseball manager, for the most part, you lose some, you win some, whatever. In football, everything matters as much as it is to the diehard on the couch, who, when that happens, is throwing his shit. I saw our guy Tyler Dunn Instagrammed out. He had Isaiah McKenzie on, like, the sit down on Monday after the game, and he's like, did you get a lot of crazy crap? And Isaiah McKenzie telling funny stories about people pausing the image. One fan tagged him in, like, all these arrows of where he should have gone. And it just, I mean, this whole thing plays a role in the ecosystem that equals the popularity. You told me that the Fox game's up. I saw someone
5%
wrote the other day that all the games are up just universally relative over the last 5 years. Like, this is like having an incredible year.
I mean, we think about the offseason, right? All the things that happen. Brady retires, unretires, Russell Wilson gets traded, right? Draft picks. There's a million.
I would say like 85% of the teams have like a legit storyline interest that you just kind of keep peeking an eye on, right?
100%. So now I do think the thing with the Niners, right, is I don't think
Jimmy's a pretty polarizing, this whole situation.
Yeah, and I don't think you or I are taking the lip reading, even if he said it, to be that important. But I think one of the reasons it works for this situation is because you could understand if Jimmy and Kyle didn't have a great relationship. It would, if you put person A and person B in the situation that those two are in, you could understand if there were some animosity. You tried to replace me. You wanted me gone. Now I'm back, whatever. And I'm not saying that's the case with those two, but I do think that's part of why this one took off. It's because the situation is a weird situation to begin with, right?
Very.
That's part of it. Like if Trey Lance had done it, it would feel kind of out of left field, right? If you had a clip of Trey Lance saying that, I'd be like, what is going on here?
Would also have been a big story, though.
Now, if Mahomes had done it and then had an interaction on the sideline, if there had been something like that's why the Mahomes clip, the Mahomes one's a separate issue. I'm not going to compare Mahomes, but
would you say Mahomes a little more like that moment is a little more organic to get posted because they were just looking at people leaving the field and he was talking to Eric Bieniemy, right? That could have easily happened with every single game at halftime. People are leaving.
Yeah, but everyone watching that game noticed it. You know what I mean?
It's impossible not to notice. I would imagine real time the Jimmy thing happened at pretty rapid fire. You wouldn't notice.
Yeah. I didn't notice, and
I didn't notice. No one noticed except this rogue fan.
Bro, why'd you call him rogue?
Because he knew what he was doing.
Freedom fighter. What's the no duplication without representation? Authorization of the express written consent. He reproduced it without express written consent.
Isn't it kind of crazy that for whatever reason Fox and CBS just doesn't fight it on the internet? Like if you did the equivalent of that with the PGA Tour, you would get flagged and it would get taken down.
Oh, really?
Baseball.
Major League Baseball I don't know if they do it anymore.
Football and basketball have never fought it. They're like, just go viral. It leads more people to watch the games.
Absolutely. It's great. So,
do you think that is an NFL telling them or them realizing? Because like CBS, for example, is in the golfing business, yet they are adamant about you can't rip the golf stuff. Yet they're in the football business, and Mahomes, I don't even who the Chiefs playing this week. I guess the Chiefs are playing Sunday night, but whoever CBS, like the Bronco Raider game, if I started posting nonstop stuff, it would get flagged. Or excuse me, it would not.
Would not get flagged, yeah.
Which is, it got to be the league, right?
Got to be. Baseball owns, baseball. It's been baseball that's been keeping all its stuff to itself for years, right?
It's worked out well.
They've pulled some of my stuff before. I don't remember what. I got flagged. I remember like years ago when I was doing like A stuff, someone came to me and was like, hey, like your credentials at risk. I was like, what? What are you talking about?
C-League's fucking senior shit, Haberman.
Yeah, Manfred's on one. All right, John, the 49ers and Rams play on Monday night. We will be here live Monday night, so it should be a big show. The 49ers are 7-4 head-to-head, McVay versus Shanahan. Kyle's won 6 straight going back to the end of last year's regular season. You were there for that. That was the 6th in a row. But Shanahan lost in the game that I'm not going to say mattered the most because the Niners had to win that game in the NFC title game. And so now overall, Kyle is 7-4 all time against McVay. But McVay won the NFC Championship game, and McVay's been to one more Super Bowl, and he's got the ring that Kyle doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, 1 point of difference before the NFC Championship game was that Kyle owned Sean McVay, right? 6-0, and that I would say that Week 18 game to get them to 10 wins,
the Danny Trujillo game.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most. It's the craziest thing I've ever witnessed live. I think that's, would you say, one of the crazier Niner games of all time, regular season?
And I've watched a lot of crazy Niner games.
It's got to be right up there. But when you lose in the NFC Championship game and you have a lead in the second half, and then the guy you lose to ends up going to the Super Bowl and winning it, it almost feels like those last 6 games, even though they were not, especially last season, like you said, they had to win really both those 2 games. I mean, shit, those were their only 2 wins in the division. I mean, they got swept by Arizona. They got swept by Seattle. If it wasn't those 2 wins, Niners were fucking sitting at home. And obviously in 2019, like those games were very, very big. And that helped lead, I guess not in a positive way, for everyone hating Jared Goff in the Rams, which actually is a negative because they ended up with a better quarterback. But like Kyle would trade all 6 of those wins for that win in the NFC Championship game, right? And because the Niners, like the Rams, would have been favored in that game against the Bengals. Now, I do wonder, the Bengals might have been a tougher matchup. Just I understand the Niners' defensive line's pretty good, but they couldn't. And Higgins might have been problems for. That's a whole nother conversation. You would. Yeah, I mean that was a pretty devastating blow for old Kyle losing that game.
Niners pass rush would have got to the quarterback though.
Rams did.
Yeah. So the curse is broken. That's what you're saying. You win the one game, and the fact that Kyle won 6 in a row against McVay doesn't matter anymore. I mean, he just faced Kyle. I think Barrows asked him today, did playing the Broncos, was it like playing the Rams? And Kyle basically said, yes, it's exactly like playing the Rams. So if there's any saving grace from playing the Broncos, you just played that defense. You playing basically the same defense again. Obviously different players. This one has Aaron Donald, but
is that a good thing?
Well, I mean, whose defense is more talented, Denver's or the Rams?
I would say Denver's top to bottom. Yeah, I mean, they just I think the Rams defense just is pretty good. I mean, they allowed 12 points, obviously last week, to the Cardinals, who you can say are just having a weird year. 2 weeks ago, they were kicking their ass, the Falcons, 31-10. And then they got a punt block for a touchdown, and Cooper Kupp fumbled. So I can't put it all on the defense. And they got back basically 15 points in the blink of an eye. But for the majority of that game, the Rams defense was pretty damn good against the Falcons, who actually might be a little feisty this year. I think Mariota's kind of, I wouldn't say resurrecting his career, but like putting respectability behind his career, that maybe he's like the new kind of bridge guy. He's better than I thought. I mean, I thought they were going to be an abomination and just, terrible. And they're actually a little more competitive. But yeah, I mean, I would say Denver's defense a little bit better, but ultimately, until the Niners prove that they can just score points, they've had 2 of their 3 games where it's been a struggle to just move the football, which is a problem. And I mean, another thing he's getting peppered with today, a huge part of that game, the Week 18 game, for example, is Jimmy. I mean, that first half looked. It is absolute insanity that they weren't down like 35-3.
Yeah, I
mean, it felt like a 50-point game in the first half, and I think the score was either 17-3 or 20-3. So it was 17-3. It was so much closer than it felt. And then they came out, and the run game, which, as well documented, Mike McDaniel, who's kind of been interwoven in this story lately, and they just ran the ball so effectively with Debo, with Elijah Mitchell, and then they scored, and they hit a double pass because the run game was working so effectively, and that's how they got back in the game. It's like, are they going to be able to do that? Because, you talked about earlier this week about the run game being a little more generic and it's been a little harder. I don't know. This is going to be a good test because historically you've been able to run it against the Rams a little bit. And the other curveball here is it happened in that game, and it definitely happened early in the season on the Monday night game with Stafford specifically, because Goff used to be a sitting duck, right? He couldn't move. Their offensive line was pretty average. The Niners would just eat him alive. And that was a huge reason for like 4 of the wins. It just felt like Goff was just getting overwhelmed, right, in 19 and 20. In 21, Stafford's clearly way better and much more potent, but he'll throw the ball to you. And kind of what symbolized, what everyone that like pushes back on Matt Stafford is like, well, he's a pick away from losing the NFC Championship game. And it did hit the guy in the numbers. He just dropped it. But he did throw multiple picks. Remember the first play of the Monday night game, Odell Beckham just shows up. He throws like a 90-yard bomb. He fucking throws it right to the 49ers. Then he has the crazy play that the dude tips and ends up in Jimmy Ward's breadbasket, and he runs it the other way. Then in the Week 18 game, he throws a couple interceptions. And the one that ultimately ended the game, which led the Niners to win the game, who was Ambry Thomas down the sideline to Odell Beckham, that when he threw it, you're like, oh, shit. And then great play, but Stafford will throw picks. I think he has 5 this year.
Yeah. Well,
if you told me the Niners win this game, I would say I'd be shocked Stafford doesn't hit like 2. Definitely throws 1.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in some ways, you're a little surprised they didn't get one against Russ. They did try. It's important for the Rams because if they lose the game, they're 2-2, and then they play Dallas.
Who's that game?
Who's not bad. Game's in LA, I think. But they should be favored in that game. But the thing with the Niners is, who knows in a month, they play again in a month. It'll be less than a month by the time Monday night rolls around. They play on October 30th. They play before Halloween the second time. So I know there's no guarantee that Trent Williams will be back by the time you play that game. Now you beat him last year at the end of the year without Trent, but there's no guarantee you'll be any healthier. Eric Armstead, will he be back by then? Maybe, but they didn't play him in the game. He did his workout, and Kyle Shanahan said on Thursday that his plantar fasciitis, which, you, me, Bill Belichick, we're not looking at the MRIs, but that's not a thing that just goes away. Kyle says it's no better today than it was when they worked him out before the game on Sunday. So there's just no guarantee that you're healthier. And the other thing is, the Rams are coming off a bye the next time you play them. I know it's a Niner home game, but the Rams only play 2 games before the next Niner game. They play the Niners, they play the Cowboys, they play the Panthers. So the Cowboys game might be on the road. And then they hit their bye. The Niners, on the other hand, who are getting a little beat up.
You're saying the Niners have a home game before they play the Rams?
Yeah, but it's against the Chiefs. The Rams are coming off of a bye. So even though the Niners-Rams game, well, I guess, and it's there, right? It's a home game for the Rams. This game's
well, last year, remember?
Yeah, maybe that doesn't matter. But my ultimate point is the Rams game, the Rams are coming off the bye the next time you play them, and you're coming off a Chiefs game. Yeah. And it's not that far away. So, and this one's at home. So I do think, the Rams have a little urgency, but the Niners definitely, I mean, they lose the game, they're 1-3. They've got a ton of urgency here.
Yeah, I would say the Niners have. This is what happens when you find yourself below the,
Mendoza line.
I consider the Mendoza line in football under 500. And when you do, you're just fighting an uphill battle, right? Because you're just constantly just trying to get above. And when you get a couple game, like once you get to like 6-3, losses don't cripple you. Even if you're like, oh my God, I just lost to the Jets. You're like, whatever, I'm 6-4. Right. And then it's just harder. This is what happened last year, and it's happening again this year, even faster than last year. You can't take a deep breath. It's not must win, but holy shit, you're 1-3. And then it's like, well, you cannot lose the next 2 games to the Panthers and the Falcons. Or is it the Falcons? It's definitely the
Falcons. It goes Panthers, Falcons, Chiefs, and Panthers, Falcons are road games.
So you're basically staying, probably at the Greenbrier or whatever, right? You'll be staying somewhere out there. You're not coming home.
Yeah.
So that puts a lot of pressure. And who knows? I mean, I think Carolina's much improved, even though I saw Christian McCaffrey's he's
not
banged up.
Yeah. Thigh.
He's got missed games written all over him.
I know. But it's also a short week game. Right. You're going to Carolina on a short week, the Niners.
Oh.
So just in addition to your point. What do you think of what did you see what Steve Young said?
No, I did not.
I know you did. You sent it to me. I don't read that stuff. This is what Steve Young told Tom Tolbert. We don't need about Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. This is what Steve Young told Tom Tolbert about Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. We don't need camps of people. I'm with Jimmy. I'm with Trey. Like, stop. Guys are like, there's a tough league and you do move on. And when you move on, you move on. We get over that. But when you've got the red and gold on, stop. We're in it together. We don't find the mitigating circumstances. We're all in. We're all in with each other. So he doesn't like it's not about camps, he said. Not about camps. Everyone's on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell Steve. He went through this. It literally happened in the camp. It felt like you and I were so young, we just kind of taken it in off documentaries, but we're in the Joe camp because of what Joe had earned. And this situation, even though Jed has outspoken, does not parallel that situation literally at all. But
literally it does. There's 2 people.
There's 2 individuals from an accomplishment resume standpoint. And that
one of them is younger, one of them is a little older. See, a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I guess Steve was a high pick, but
Shanahan, Bill Walsh, geniuses.
Yeah, so I understand the splinter nature of a locker room being put in this situation. Like I think it's very easy for a guy, almost 60 years old to say that stuff. Very understandable for the 24-year-olds in the locker room to be a little confused. There was some teasing going on. There was an inability, which ended up potentially, we think, benefiting the 49ers holding on to Jimmy, but it also was ripe to create just some weirdness. We said it during training camp when he was eating in the cafeteria, right? Like most of these, it's funny. Whenever someone gets injured, like Jameis right now is injured. He hasn't practiced this week.
But he's in London.
Yes. And then I heard someone say, well, Andy Dalton's getting all the reps. And you just realize, like, so many teams, if I asked you to go through, like, you know exactly who Andy Dalton is, but you wouldn't have been able to tell unless you had, like, researched it or something. I would not have known what team Andy Dalton was on, right? And most of these situations are just like, there are a couple, like, I know Gardner Minshew is Jalen's backup, or Blaine Gabbert is Brady's backup. But and Cooper Rush, just because he played last year, but like the Andy Dalton types, they kind of just maneuver throughout the league, right? Like CJ Beathard was somewhere till he got hurt. Mullins, I think, is with the Ray, just once you kind of, I know Jordan Love's there, but there are just kind of random situations that are very independent of the starter. Like, I just think this guy was better, so we added him. Daniels has been there forever in San Diego or LA because they like him. Stafford's backup, no clue. Wofford, maybe. Is he still there? But if you told me it's like, they got a Nick Mullins type, I'd believe you. So it's just, you're kind of using where the Niners, their situation was like the most polarizing in the league, even during training camp. He was literally, he's still there. So it's understandable why people just have some different takes. There'd be no take to be had if Jimmy had been cut, like I wanted to, like right when camp started, and Andy Dalton was still available, let's say, and they had added Andy Dalton. And it was like Andy Dalton, it was Trey Lance's backup. There would have been no splintering. No one would have wanted to see Andy Dalton. Trey broke his ankle, then Andy Dalton would have had to start. The only splintering would be like, time to see Purdy, But like part of the Jimmy Garoppolo is the conversation that creates splintering.
I'm with Steve. Like, in theory, it sounds great, but it's just at that position, it just doesn't, and he knows it. It just doesn't work that way. I think what should make it easy
happens a lot in college, doesn't it? The big programs when they've added a sweet guy and they kind of have an incumbent.
Yeah, guys' resumes are so short in college, right?
It's specific at like Ohio State or Georgia or something with a specific guy, right? Maybe an older guy who's a coach favorite, who's accomplished something, but then they get like Arch Manning or Justin Fields is the backup. You're like, no, Jake Fromm went to war for us. He won 11 games. It has to be an elite program that just won 11, 12 games with the older guy that's clearly not as talented as like Quinn Ewers is here to take the job. Like, no way,
But there's a difference, right? Like, the difference is when some college sophomore thinks it versus, well, is it all the veterans who've been who are like 32 years old?
Not apples to apples, but my point is it happens consistently at that level with the blue chip guy at like 10 programs, right?
Yeah. But it's just not
it has Texas has it written all over them next year with Arch
and whoever the coach is. But it's just the nature of the position. It just is. The thing that to me makes it a little wild, and we've talked about it, but all of this, started when they re-signed Jimmy, which is the situation they created. But it really hit the fan after Jimmy replaced Trey. Now, it started up, right? It started up before that. That's part of what led to the reaction after Jimmy replaced Trey, because Trey got hurt, not because Trey got benched. And I agree with Steve fundamentally. Like, if you run a team, you would not want Mike Silver to have a story that says some people in the locker room think Jimmy gives them a better chance to win right now. I agree. I agree. I think we've seen this 49er organization under Kyle is really buttoned down. There's not a lot of rumors. There's not a lot of leaks. And I do think it says something that even in that environment, there was just a little of that, because I think when it comes to quarterbacks, it's nearly impossible because it's the only because I think other. I think
isn't it human
positions
nature
are
though
kind
for there to be some question mark till someone proves something?
Totally. It's human nature. And I think most positions kind of think it's bullshit that quarterbacks don't have to compete in the same way they do, like every week. Like I can get replaced as like most positions, I just get benched. Nobody goes crying for me. Like, no, give him 3 more weeks. It's like, no, you can come back when you prove it in practice. Quarterback, for good reasons, doesn't quite work that way. And I think probably most position players don't, understand that there's a difference, but don't love that there's a different rule applied to them than the QBs.
Well, one thing last week was like, Lenore in the slot? What happened to Womack? And then I saw Kyle's quote after. It was like, he had a great week of practice. So
he was better.
He got lapped in practice, which is impossible at quarterback, right?
Yeah, you don't get there's no the reps. That's called a quarterback competition, and that's a problem. A nickelback competition, nobody calls it that. They're just like, yeah, they're playing.
Yeah, to me, it is what it is. I think the Eagles are a pretty good example. Going into the season, it was like, Roseman, if this doesn't go well, he's got multiple picks. They could always make a pivot to Gardner Minshew. 3 weeks in, Jalen's fucking looks awesome. Like, they got their quarterback, and it's just I haven't heard Gardner Minshew's name one time. I haven't heard anyone mention Roseman's loaded with picks. No one even – they're just like, can we win the Super Bowl? Right? That's all that anyone's thinking. Like, is this guy good enough to win the Super Bowl with? A month ago, I was like, time will tell with just Jalen Hurts' character. Yeah. You can shut people up fast with good play. That's the one thing in football, because it's not like, well, he hit 2 home runs in 3 games and then he strikes out for the next 20 games. In football, you just play once and then you get a long break. Then you play once and you get another 6-7 day break. So it's just, you play well basically 80% of the time over a month. That's just kind of your narrative. You're just playing pretty good. Like, that's why, everyone was bullish on Jimmy, and then we saw it, we're like, oh, pump the brakes. But he can kind of 2 or 3 touchdowns this week, win by 10 points, everyone will be fine. It's just the nature of football, right? I mean, it's just, it is what it is.
Corey on the stream says, if Jimmy stinks this season, maybe it was necessary. The team will no longer be able to win in spite of his shortcomings. Seems like a fitting ending to me. Yeah, if Garoppolo's bad this year, then we can debate whether or not Trey Lance will come back better or whatever. But the question then becomes, I just don't assume that Kyle Shanahan is giving anybody anything moving forward, right? If Jimmy Garoppolo's bad and is gone, it doesn't mean that Kyle's just giving the job to Trey Lance again. Who the hell knows what he's going to do?
Yeah.
Which I think it was the point.
Well, I think regardless what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo, everything's on the table moving forward, right? That's what I believe. Everything's on the table. To think that he just handed a job and it kind of got weird. I'm not saying he's not going to be the starting quarterback, but I wouldn't sign a Sharpie on that right now.
Well, I mean, he always said they drafted Trey because Jimmy got hurt a lot. Well, Trey's hurt now. So he will bring another quarterback in that he thinks, even if Trey Lance is a starting quarterback, he will want a quarterback that he feels comfortable putting on the field if he has to put him on the field.
Will Levis?
I don't think Will's going to be available, John.
No, I don't either.
Jets gang on the stream says Flacco is top 5 in passing. It's a great point, John. It brings me to some of the great things to watch for this weekend in the NFL.
Is Flacco benched?
Zach Wilson. For the second time in 2 years, he's trying to outperform a backup quarterback who might be better than him. So that's an interesting situation. Jets are +3 at the Steelers. That's one of the morning games this weekend. So
that's a pretty bad football game. I'll be honest. I don't plan on, Red Zone will show it when necessary, but I don't plan on consuming much of that thing.
Screen 7 for that.
That's a hard watch, guy.
Chargers -7 against the Texans. That's also a morning game. Rashawn Slater out. Joey Bosa surgery on the groin. Guyton out. Brandon Staley trying to rally the troops, go for every 4th down, I guess.
I kind of like the Texans in this game, don't you?
I do, at least with the points. Not that we're betting that game.
I saw a little bit of the Bears-Texans game. I felt like they were in the red zone a lot. Davis Mills looks like he's coming back to earth a little bit.
Not shocking. Although I'm pro Davis Mills. If you like Dan Campbell, then, close but no cigar is not good enough, and the Lions got to go to the Seahawks to win this weekend. Feels like could be a good matchup, John. just could be a good, weird game. I think this game's could be weird written all over it. Seahawks playing weird games, Lions playing weird games. So keep an eye on Lions Seahawks for some weirdness.
I like the Lions.
+4.
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks, I was telling you this before we started, one of the most under-discussed stories in the NFL this year. Who does John Schneider like in the quarterback class? I saw Mel Kiper had Cam Ward as a 6th quarterback. Michael Penix right down the street, spinning it. Will Levis.
What year is Cam Ward?
I think he's a junior.
So he played a couple years at Incarnate Word, transferred.
Right, Incarnate, not a jail.
Incorporated Ward.
By the way, that school, who'd they beat? They beat Nevada like 3 weeks ago. Incarnate Word.
Do you know where that place is?
Texas somewhere.
I didn't know.
Yeah, only because I've looked. Who does John Schneider like? The Seahawks have 2 1s. They got 2 2s. This is the man that drafted Russell Wilson. It's the guy that, if you tell your story loud enough, people will believe it's fact. Love Josh Allen. Bunch of quarterbacks, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud and Will Levis, and on and on and on. So,
but I do think, like you said, tell the story. Like, that's a big Danny Ainge thing. I remember Danny Ainge claimed that they had Draymond Green 3rd on their board, and everyone was like, well, it's easy to say 3 years later. I think it's pretty clear. Even Russell acknowledged they tried to trade me to the Browns, and they felt. I've never heard John Schneider say this, but everyone felt. Remember, he went to the Josh Allen thing that Josh Allen was his guy, and the Russell thing was. Pete told the story of him pounding the table for Russell Wilson. Like, I would say it's pretty well documented for a media guy, specifically those 2 guys who he liked. And again, he wanted to trade Russell Wilson, the guy that he pounded the table for.
So you buy it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's fact. The Browns
also not
turned
crazy.
it down.
Josh Allen went 7th or 8th, whatever it was, right? So
not crazy at all. I'm a little surprised. Probably October, I could see a big month to see like him at college games.
I do wonder, is he going to have to? Because
they're not going to win.
They're not going to win, but is he going to be drafting 2nd or 7th? Because if you're drafting 7th or 5th, you do have to kind of hide who you like, right?
Do you think Pete Carroll's going to be his coach next year?
It wouldn't surprise me, honestly, because why would you coach this year if you were Pete, if you weren't going to coach next year?
But then the problem is, what if they get the number 1 or 2 pick? He gets like a Levis or a CJ Stroud, and then Pete's like, I got 5 more years coaching this guy.
Well, you get a with Shane Waldron. I mean, is Pete the worst thing for a young team?
No, clearly Pete's pretty good at his job, right?
So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I do wonder if the Seahawks have to. Are they going to be bad enough that they don't have to hide who they like? Are they going to be drafting 1 or 2? Because there's some other bad teams out there, John.
I think Seattle, though, like when you're not beating Atlanta at home, all of a sudden you lose to the Lions, you could lose to the Saints, the Cardinals, the Chargers. Giants would be a big swing game, but the Giants are going to end up winning 5-6 games. Cardinals, Bucks, Raiders, Rams, 49ers, Chiefs, I mean, I think Seattle's got 3 or 4 wins written all over them.
Well, then they're going to have their pick of the litter or close to it.
Remember, with the 17th game, like 6 wins got you like the 9th pick. So if you win 3, you got a very good chance. 3 is not an awful season, obviously, and they already have 1. But I think 3 and 14 is the number 1 overall pick. I've watched enough this year to know. We don't have a 1-win team.
I don't think so. Texans aren't that. Raiders aren't that.
Well, the Bears and Giants already have multiple wins.
Can't be them. One of them, Bears and Giants, John, they play each other. So one of those 2 teams is going to be 3-1 by next week.
Raiders?
Well, yeah, but the Raiders aren't that. But yeah, I mean, Broncos clearly are not that. Panthers, Jets, Dolphins clearly not. Obviously,
I do think the Jets have much more talent than 1 or 2 wins, but it's going to be a struggle for them to win most weeks, right?
I mean, maybe the Lions.
I think the Lions win. I think you want a hot take? I think the Lions can make the playoffs, 7th seed.
See. NFC actually NFC is not great, but are they end up in a lot of games. You're like, man, they are so close, but I feel like they're just going to be so close for 7.
He literally blew it though last week. But there's no guarantee they can get the 4th down.
Admitting mistakes doesn't eliminate the mistake. It's like doing the my bad after a drop pass. Like doesn't mean you're going to catch the next one.
Well, as long as you go for it the next time. Look at Hackett. Screwed up game management, hires a dude from the street.
That's right. Jim Boylan on his staff, or whatever. Anyway, I just think the Seahawks quarterback evals is a very interesting part of the season. Belichick, John, plus 9.5 against the Packers. Poor Bill. Not flying first class anymore, living like a civilian. Brian Hoyer is his quarterback. He's just going through QB shit like everybody else. Brian Hoyer's making his third start in 5 seasons, this being the 5th year, so 2 starts in the last 4 years. He's only started and finished 1 game in the previous 4 years. That was 2019. He started the weird-ass game in 2020 when COVID pushed the game back from Sunday to Monday to Tuesday. They flew in the day of the game. Cam had COVID, so Hoyer started, but then got benched for Jarrett Stidham. That's his starter this week. That's his starter.
You want to go Brian Hoyer career earnings?
I'm going to go. Great question. What year did he come into the league? Can I get that?
Been a long time. Came in 09.
09 from Michigan State, probably a 5th rounder or something.
Undrafted free agent.
Okay, but 09, so we're year 13.
Very weird earning season last year. Don't even quite understand how this is possible. He made $59,000.
Yeah. Well, he didn't. How much of the season was he?
Well, 59,000. How's that possible? I mean, is he fucking selling cars at the Toyota dealership? $59,000.
Pretty low. They were like, COVID. Sorry, bro. Can you take a pay cut? I'm gonna go with God, I feel like this number is going to be low, but not too low. I'm going to go with a couple higher, a couple like $8 million years.
No. I'll give you a hint. His peak earning year, thanks to our man down the road, Kyle Shanahan, was 7.2.
Okay, but that's is it by far? I'll just give you a number. I'm going to say 28 to like 31.
Yeah, you're close. 32.9.
Okay, pretty good.
Do you think if you go, you meet someone, you go, I played, it's a long time. I mean, he's going on, he'll have like a 15-year NFL career. Wouldn't you think like, God, this guy make $80 million? But you're like, wait, you only made 30? Kind of sucks, doesn't it?
Well, but I mean, if he had played in the 90s, he would have walked away with like a total of $3 million.
He's only been the full-time starter a couple times, right? With the Texans and the Niners. And that's of his $32 million, that accounts for over 12. I just think if you're going to play that long and go through getting screamed at all the time, all the negativity, $50 million feels like it'd be worth it. You're around all these guys. I mean, some of them make like $30 million in a year, and you make 30 for over 12, 13 years.
You know what? He's like the Matthew Slater of quarterbacks. Hasn't even made as much as like Chase Daniels made a lot of money. Part of it is there's not a demand for his services. There's like a team or 2 teams that have, right? How many times has he been on the Patriots? Like 3 times?
Yeah. I mean, him, Bill O'Brien, and Kyle Shanahan and fucking be out of the league.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, would you rather have, work normal jobs after Michigan State or done what he did? Of course that. I just mean when you factor in how long he's been around, and if you're his mind, I'm always 1 snap away. Well, yeah, Matt Slater, he's made more than Slater. Now you go backup. Is a backup quarterback more important than the greatest cover guy ever?
A Hall of Famer. By the way, John, on the stream, I'm being corrected. I said the Lions are the underdogs. The Lions are favorites. So the Seahawks at home are getting 4 points. Detroit.
I would not take the Lions -4, but I do like the Lions in the game.
I checked Bill's roster just for fun. He has 3 of his own first-round picks on his entire roster: Mac Jones, Isaiah Wynn, Cole Strange. That's it. It's weird. It's weird roster.
Could you package those 3 for what? Like, could you package those 3 and get like DK Metcalf? Could you package those 3 and get like some sweet player?
Well, if you could send the Niners 2 starting guards right now, what would they send? And Mac Jones? I mean, shit. God, Niners would give you 3 1s. What are you talking about? Niners would give you your full refund back.
Was it? Oh, it was McVay that. Was it McVay that laughed about Strange?
It was both of them. It was McVay and Snead. In their defense, they probably had a few John Daly's because they had no picks that day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, because McVay was laughing that Les made him watch him, and then they looked at each other like, this guy's never going to be around the 3rd round, but like, we didn't expect him to go in the 1st.
Yeah.
And then McVay the next day had to do a classic. I wasn't trying to make fun of him. I idolized Belichick. Did you hear Dilfer tell Russillo that one thing, I don't know if I'd never heard this, so this is probably like a nerd coaching thing. Bill in the Super Bowl had scouted the Rams so well that they knew McVay's tendencies on play calls where McVay stood on the sideline. So, like, he didn't go into specifics, but the way he talked about it, like, if he was on the 40, it was specific type runs. When he was on, like, the 30, it was more pass plays. And it was, like, I guess it's in the coaching nerd circles, like, legend, stuff of legend, him punking him.
my
Because
God.
it makes sense, right? How hard, you and I, most people listening have been watching the Super Bowls to score 3 points in the Super Bowl is very, very difficult to accomplish. He had to have something.
You have
it's like
Goff up against Bill, but he'd been an explosive offense that year.
I mean, I think the best offense in the league.
Now that I think about it, when Garoppolo missed Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl, was Kyle and remember it was like Kyle and John Lynch standing next to each other. Were they standing further down the sideline or were they at the line of scrimmage?
It's a hell of a question.
I don't know. I feel like I saw a video that they were a little further down, but that's a great note. I wonder why. Interesting. I mean, you would think Sean had changed his habit since then.
Well, 100% he's changed his cadence.
But like that's not something you would even pick up in a self scout necessarily.
Yeah, you got to send someone to the game for that.
But who would even notice that? Even if you had somebody scout you and you pay, if I said, John, come scout us, here's $50,000, would you come up with that? That's insane.
No, yeah, it's like Bill and Ernie teach you the tricks of the trade. And like, or what you do is you have people filming from the stands.
Well, yeah, that would be the obvious probably accusation, right?
Because first Sean would say, how do you see me every play in the all-22? And Bill would say, well, I don't.
We log it. Yeah. The all-22, you mean the league's all-22 or my all-22?
Yeah. Wait, you watch the league's all-22? Wait,
it's not an all-22 shot.
That's what everyone scouts in this league? The thing that the league gives every team, you fucking morons?
It's the handheld from the first row behind you.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? A couple other things. Carolina, Arizona. One of them's getting their third loss this week. Eagles could get to 4-0 against the Jags. That's Trent Baalke, Howie Roseman, John. That game, executive of the year face-off potentially.
Bigger story if they go 4-0 or if the Jags are 3-1.
Boy, I mean, both massive. I mean, 4-0 puts you in the driver's seat in the NFC. The Jags being 4-1. 4-1? 3-1?
3-1. And honestly, a Wentz bomb touchdown with like 3 minutes to go from being undefeated.
Yeah, I think to me, it's like if they just play a good game, both teams come out of this thing looking pretty good. Right?
Think about
the
this.
Jags just are a real team.
Well, the Jags beat who'd they beat? Oh, the Colts 24-0. And then they beat the shit out of the Chargers 38-10. So they've had 2 wins of like, we dominated in the wins.
So both these teams' margins have to be pretty big, right?
The scoring differential? Yeah, because the Jags only lost that first game it was 28-22.
Jacksonville's plus 46. And Philly's plus 36. The only team with the bigger one's Buffalo, obviously. So these are the 2 biggest scoring differentials in the league so far.
I would imagine the Niners are in the red.
No, I think
because they beat Seattle 27.
Yeah, Niners are plus 10. Niners are plus 10. Like the Dallas and the Giants are both negative. Rams are actually negative.
The Rams' offense has not been that good this year.
Plus the Bills game, and then the Falcons game got close. But you're right. I mean, biggest negative differential. You want to take a guess? Somebody had to get blown out.
It wouldn't be the Raiders, even though the Texans know.
Raiders are weirdly only minus 13. It's the Titans minus 33.
It's hard to get a gauge of the NFL through just a couple games. Like
Jesus Christ, is the Lions game in Detroit? Have I been doubly wrong about that game? I thought the game was in Seattle with Seattle favored. It's in Detroit? Somebody just said that on the
I will give you the benefit of the doubt on this. Seattle, the Lions always do. Seattle feels completely irrelevant.
It is in Detroit. God, you know what? I screwed that one up.
Seattle feels completely irrelevant.
John, Dallas 2-0 playing the Commanders, 2-0 with a backup quarterback. So they get to 3-0 with a backup quarterback. That'd be pretty impressive.
Well, that's a pretty good comeback after losing that week 1 game on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Which I would say most people thought they were fucked, including myself.
Can I update you on the latest Brett Favre's a piece of shit version of the Brett Favre story? Somebody DM'd me the other day and was like, you guys were talking about Brett. I have no idea what the story is. I come to you guys for the information. Don't assume that everyone knows the story. And I said, well, I do think it was a pretty widely distributed story, but that's also fair. We don't want to people, you guys, these are our jobs. So, but Favre was, some people got arrested that were working with Brett, by the way, to redistribute state welfare money.
Aren't like the politicians he was working with under indictment?
One got arrested. Some other person who was, I don't know if directly related, just got sentenced to like 32 years. So dicey. Could Brett end up behind bars? But redirected like $5 million of state welfare money to the Southern Miss volleyball team for their arena. But the latest story Wednesday, not illegal, just shady, is that the Favre for Hope Foundation, whose mission is to support cancer patients and disadvantaged kids, donated more than $130,000 to the Southern Miss athletics department and $60,000 to Brett's daughter's high school club volleyball team. And this is a foundation that takes public donations. So it's not like it's like Brett just, covering up some tax dollars, which whatever. Public donations, $60,000, cancer patients, disadvantaged kids, $60,000, his daughter's volleyball team.
I don't know how you rate shadier, because the welfare thing, I saw when everyone was arguing over the Ime Udoka welfare thing, it's like part of the reason people are just so numb to famous people and politicians doing shady shit. So it's not that like whenever you read the details, you're like, Jesus, we've seen it a million times. I mean, I'm numb to it.
Like the old saying that sex sells, like it's really true, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a big part. If it was Ime Udoka has stolen $7 per paycheck from the Celtics for the last 100 years, some bullshit, no one would care.
But how many times in our life have we seen politician with someone involved in crazy things with money, going different places? It happens nonstop.
Yeah.
To me, the situation is two people that raised money for charity last year. No Kid Hungry. Great deal. Thanks for everyone that donated. When you give to something like that, you are told specifically where it's going. And obviously, Brett's wife famously went through, breast cancer. So it's an easy one for them to, like, when you think of Brett Favre, the breast cancer, it kind of goes hand in hand. So I'm giving you, regardless of whatever the number is, to then you give. And it all gets back to, I'm telling you, one, he's either the cheapest motherfucker going, like he has the money, he just does not want to give his own money. Yep. Or I feel pretty confident about this, he does not have the liquid funds to make the promises that he has made. / I could see the one to the daughter, like him trying to be like, use this money, like I don't want to use my money type.
Yeah,
deal.
It also could be like he likes making promises and you've just been famous for a long time and people just give him shit. And hey, I'm just here facilitating, making it happen. You guys move some money there, move it there. Because if he really needed the money, would he be giving $60,000 to a club volleyball team?
Well, I read an in-depth article on the welfare money. And one thing, a guy from Southern Miss who was getting pissed off, like asking for the cash, like, I don't know if Brett realizes, like, he made a commitment. Like this, you can't just, and as people that went to Fresno State and saw a commitment go belly up, you make a big promise. It's different. Like if the equivalent of Fresno State would be like Derek Carr, Logan Mankins, like you believe the money is coming. If Brett Favre at Southern Miss says, I got $5 million, I wouldn't blame those people at Southern Miss within the next week start doing draw renderings, right? You would start the flow of the thing. Right. And Brett acting like a big swinging dick, and then he doesn't have the money.
Also, if you're Southern Miss, you don't want to find out the money came from state welfare funds.
You want no part of that? 100%.
You're like, fuck, we already got half the buildings up. What do we do?
I'm telling you, I think, I'm not some legal analyst. I don't know if he's going to jail or not, but I feel pretty confident about his funds are a little more limited than I would imagine people thought before this situation came out.
Hey, speaking of Fresno State, Aaron Judge, shout out.
That was pretty cool.
Did you watch it? Were you watching it?
No, I wasn't.
It was cool.
Well, I watched the first two ABs. How many times has he walked the last three? I gave up a little bit.
Well, I saw somebody said if you would bet on him to walk every at bat, you'd be up 41 units or some shit over the last 2 weeks. He walked. I watched the game before. Today's Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. He walked all 4 ABs, I think.
Yeah, I watched 3 of those ABs, and then I watched the first one yesterday. And I'll be honest, I gave up. Yeah, I didn't give up because I didn't think he was tight or anything. He wasn't. There weren't even pitches close.
I know.
Would you want to be the guy that gave it up? Even though I think it's not a bad play.
I was thinking about that, like walk off home run, whatever. You don't want to lose some game that doesn't matter. But if it's like, you're, yeah. Here, this was my thought. If it was the last day of the season and your team didn't need the game, would you? And he was like one away from breaking the record. Would you groove him a fastball,
Michael Strahan style with Brett Favre?
I would do it. I would groove him a fastball. Now the difference between Favre and he still has to hit it out. If you groove him a fastball.
What if you
but
do
I
one
would.
Of these?
I'd be like, yeah. I would tell him what's coming, change up. A couple reasons. Doesn't hurt me. It's like, fuck. Like all these guys that give up these legendary home runs, none of them are mad about it. Now, if it's like Bobby Thompson, you give up the pennant, that's different. But I just mean like for a record. Like, who cares? Plus, they bring you back. You're signing autographs. Fuck. Mookie, Bill Buckner was signing autographs forever, and that was an awful moment. Imagine how easy it'd be. Like, yeah, I gave up 62. What do I care?
I've seen some nerd buzz on the internet. Like, I do think there are some nerds that are going to vote for Mike Trout to be the MVP.
Yeah.
I think if you do that, you should be.
What about Ohtani?
Your vote taken away, or whoever. Like, to me, it's pretty clear cut this year.
He might win the Triple Crown still. That was his thing to like, he did the interview afterwards. He's like, I remember my coach at Fresno State. I don't know if he was talking about Mike Batesel, I assume, was showing us YouTubes of when Miguel Cabrera won the Triple Crown.
And, I wanted to red flag him. I'm like, well, I thought you couldn't get baseball on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know who knows what he was watching.
No, I saw you post that. I was like, oh.
Good point. We're talking, Mike Trout, not his fault, but I looked the other day because I saw one of the Barstool baseball guys was like, I hope people are people noticing what Mike Trout is doing? And I said, no, they are not noticing what he's doing, because for like the millionth year in a row, the Angels are going to finish their customary 35 games out of first place. If you go back, I went back and looked, the Angels basically finish somewhere between 15 and 32 games out of first place almost every year. So this year, I think they're like 32 games out of first in the American League West. Maybe it's 33. I haven't checked in a couple of days. I'm not saying that's Mike Trout's fault, but no, you don't. Sorry. I couldn't.
Under no circumstances, if you vote for Mike Trout, can I ever take you seriously again? And that, to me, every person that does, they represent part of why baseball has fought for relevancy the last 20 years, because it'll be independent of stats and stuff. Like, this is Aaron Judge. He's on one of the best teams. He's by far their best player. He's having a historic year. He's a dominant player. He is the best player on the most important. One of the. What are we talking about? He's won the award before on shitty teams.
Yeah.
He's been hurt this year. What the fuck are we doing?
I haven't looked at Trout's numbers. To me, if you make,
he's got 38 bombs. He's batting 275. He's probably walked a bunch. He's walked 50 times.
I'd have to look before I can make the case. My initial reaction is, I wouldn't do it, but I got no problem. Like, he's probably, he's one of the greatest players of all time also. So whatever, but it's not like you'd be voting for some bullshit guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would be voting for Mike Trout.
It does feel this year you'd be doing it pretty specifically, like, to try to like be different.
Oh, maybe, but maybe if you wanted to be anti Triple Crown numbers, but
the Triple Crown numbers have mattered this year. Right.
But I'm just saying, like, the Triple Crown, like your point is, like, if you're basing it off of some analytical numbers that are less, the Triple Crown has lost kind of its luster.
For sure. The Yankees are going to win 100 games. Is this the last weekend of baseball, or is there another week?
Well, there's 13 games left, so there's probably another week. I think the last week goes into October.
So he's still got some more time to hit some more bombs.
I wouldn't mind if he finished on 61. What if he broke Barry's record out of nowhere? Like, just hit a home run a game for the rest of the season.
Well, yeah. Well, what if he just had like Friday, Saturday, Sunday banged out like 5?
It was just like, holy shit, he's gonna break the Bonds record. That'd be pretty nuts. How much more money would he earn if he did that? By the way, John, I love the Yankee record. I think the Yankees have earned everything they've got. They are a legitimate fucking winner. So I'm not, some people are like, oh, the Cowboys get too much attention. The Yankee, like the Knicks. Why stop talking about the Knicks? Okay. The Yankees have earned it. Like, they are the greatest American sports franchise.
Haven't they been in the playoffs like 24 of the last 29 years?
Yeah, it was something like that was the stat.
Yeah.
So to me, the fact that Maris was a Yankee and Maris broke Babe's record and Babe was an all-time great and he was a Yankee, like, that's what makes this cool, right? But like the idea that it's cool that I guess Roger Maris Jr. is entitled. Everyone's entitled. It's not news that Roger Maris Jr. said that this is the home run record. That's not news. Like the record is Barry's record. That's what the record says. So he doesn't. I understand why he has that take, but that's not I don't want that third on my news feed that Roger Maris Jr. said that. That's whatever. He's Roger Maris Jr. He's the son of Roger Maris.
Listen,
he's not unbiased here.
The moment with the mom and Roger Maris Jr. was really cool. Why did Roger Maris Jr. get a press conference after?
I mean, he's Roger Maris Jr. I guess they get to do whatever he wants. I mean, he has been. Think of all he was there for. He was there for McGuire. I mean, they've been around for a while.
He looked like I
his
forget
name
that.
Roger Maris Jr.
Yeah, it is.
I used to assume people that's what I would call him if I didn't know his name was Roger Maris Jr.
What's crazy, I was telling you last night, I texted you, I went down this Mickey Mantle rabbit hole because you go on Roger Maris, his Wikipedia page, it ultimately leads you to the Mickeys. And Mickey's family, like, obviously everyone in his family had died young. It was a big reason he drank so hard because his dad had died young. He had kids that died before him. It was crazy. His story, he had a son that died at 36 years old. I think another one died at like 42 years old. And then you realize, read his baseball accolades. He won 7 fucking championships. He was a 20-time All-Star. I think in a weird way, he's an underrated, like the way we talk about Bill Russell or obviously Brady. I don't know if we hold Mickey Mantle to the proper regard.
Well, baseball people, I think, do. He definitely, his name doesn't come up a lot, but really whose name comes up like in general baseball terms? Yeah. Mickey, I told you this last night. We were texting.
Babe won 6, Mickey won 7, Gehrig won 7.
DiMaggio? Did you look at DiMaggio?
I did not. I'm
His
guessing
last year was 51, so he shared one with he shared one with Mickey. Mickey's rookie year was DiMaggio's last year.
Do you know where DiMaggio's from?
San Francisco.
Yeah, Martinez. He won. DiMaggio won 9.
Yeah, because DiMaggio's last year was 51. What was his rookie year? Probably pre-war.
36. Yeah. Long time ago.
Yeah. I told you I have Mickey's book somewhere. Like when I was a kid, his autobiography. It's called All My Octobers. You just played in October every fucking year. It's incredible.
I mean, the Yankees from like the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, they were just bigger than everybody else. They just won nonstop.
Just annihilate people. Just dominate.
And really, George had nothing to do with any of that, huh? George took over.
George had nothing to do with that. No. George Steinbrenner?
Yeah.
But like you texted me, George will come back if Aaron Judge signs with somebody else. You just everything you've earned, you lose a lot of credit if you let Aaron Judge walk to go play for the Mets.
Why you can't? I'm telling you, they have.
I said this to you. Could the Mets? How rich is he?
Well, I think like Ballmer. I think he's worth like $50 billion.
Could he offer Judge a bill? 10 years, $1 billion, $100 million a year for 10 years. Zero chance you'll ever live up to this contract, but here we go. There's no way you can say no. The Yankees can't come close.
He's probably lost some money in the recent stock market plunge. So
I don't know. This is when he makes his money.
His net worth, maybe it's not worth as much as I thought. $12 billion.
Okay. Now, $10 billion, $1 billion over 10 years. It's really only $100 million this year that you're committing yourself to.
I got $17 billion. Yeah, maybe it fluctuates with then I see $26 billion range. That was an 18 when the stock market was ripping. So he's worth a lot. He could do it. Clearly, I mean he'll do something shady to get the cash if he has to.
Promise him some stuff, give him some New York real estate.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, anything to add?
That should do it.
Okay. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Share it, like it, subscribe to it, 5-star it, holler at your boys, DM us, send us pictures of you and your John Daly's, your Titos and Gingers, your handles on the golf course on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever you're doing. And
yeah.
Now I have to hit end broadcast.